In this video, we're going to do 12.03 Space Infestors Part 2. Okay, and what this section is going to do is we're just going to focus on moving the entities, right, and nothing else. So the bullet should move up, the space invader should move down, my ship is moving. When I'm pressing the input keys, nothing happens because we're just focusing on the movement. Okay, and in the next part, we're going to do the rest, all right? So I have the file opened up in Racket, so let's just review it, okay? So it's the same starter file as the previous video. Notice all the data definition steps are done, and you can review all these, check the previous video. Let's just look for our problem A. So where is our problem A statement? It's all the way down here, all right? So we finished the draw/render functions in 12.02, which are done above. Finished designing the functions for update-tank, update-menemy, update-mbullet, and update-game. The end result is that bullets, enemies, and tanks should move. Adding key interactions will be done in 12.04 in the next section. All right, so let's just get started. So pause the video and try to do the how to design function step for update tank. I'm going to go with spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm assuming that you took a good swing at it. So now let's go over it together. All right, so update tank consumes a tank and produces a tank. And produces a tank with its X position increased by its vel-x, right? So, signature, purpose, let's stub this out. So define update tank consumes a tank and produces a tank. So we'll just use that as a stub. All right, gonna scroll down here. And then we're gonna do some examples here. So check expect. We'll just do one example for now. So update tank. So do a make tank of 20. And then the velocity is tank-speed, right? So what do you expect this to produce? Spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. Well, we want to increase the X position, this 20 right here, by the tank speed, all right? So it's going to be plus 20 tank speed. And then, of course, the tank speed remains the exact same, okay? And likewise, you can do another test for the negative tank speed, just in case. So there we go. I'm just going to copy that. Make the velocity negative. So I'm going to have to wrap this in parentheses and make it negative like so, right? Like so, it would be negative. And then, of course, the position would be subtracted by the tank speed, okay? All right. So we have our two examples and our stub. Let's run it against stub. Right now, we should comment this out because it's not relevant, okay? And we get some mismatches here. It's just fine. All right, 20 differs from 18, 20 differs from 22. It's because we're not adding the velocity x. Okie dokie. So going to come out the stub. We do know that it runs now. All right. So let's grab the template, something that consumes a tank, and use that as a baseline. So tank-temp. All right, there's that template. Going to go back down to, you copy and paste it more correctly. And then go back to update tank. Okay, so I'm gonna use this as a scaffold. Renames the update tank. Okie dokie. Now really pause the video. Hopefully there should be all the mental scaffolding needed to solve the problem. I'm going to spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm assuming that you took a good swing at it. So now let's go over it together. All right, so looking at the signature here, we have to produce a tank, and we can do that by saying the make tank over here, right? Also, the examples tell us that. All right, the X, right, has to be increased by the tank speed, right? The velocity, the vel-x. So we're going to add these two together, right? Like so. And then the velocity x stays the exact same. So we're going to need this again, but in the second position of this make tank. So we run all these tests should pass. And so they do, all right? All the other tests above are the render function tests. You can ignore them. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, update-menemy. So update-menemy consumes a maybe enemy and produces a maybe enemy. And the purpose is that it moves the enemy Y position if it is alive by enemy speed. This is a constant variable defined above, and it is mapped to +1. All right, so pause the video and try to do these steps on your own. I'm going with spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm assuming I took a good swing at it, so now let's go over it together. Let's refresh our memory as to what a maybe enemy is, all right? So I'm going to scroll all the way up. So maybe enemy is false or this make point number. False means the enemy is dead, and when it's a point, it means the enemy is alive at that point, all right? All right, so update-menemy. So let's write examples for it, all right? So update-menemy. And signature, purpose, stub this out, define update-menemy. That M stands for maybe, all right? So it consumes an enemy, a maybe enemy. We'll call it en, and then we'll spit it back out because that's for the stub to run against our examples. So check expect update-menemy. All right. So what happens if it's dead, right? This false means that the enemy's dead. What do we expect this to produce? Well, we can infer that if it's dead, it can't really move. So we should produce false, right? False is a maybe enemy, and if it's dead, it should stay dead. All right. Let's do one more example. So check expect update-menemy. So what happens when it's alive at, the point 40, 30, all right? What do you expect this to produce? Well, according to the signature, the purpose statement here, all right, moves the enemy Y position if it is alive by enemy speed, all right? Pause the video and try to come up with an example for this. Spoilers in 3 and 2 and 1. All right, so we have to do a make point, all right, because we have to produce a make enemy. And according to the purpose, we have to increase the Y, move the Y by enemy speed if it's alive. So it is alive right now. And we're going to leave the X the same. It says nothing about the X, right? So it's still going to be 40, all right? But the Y is going to be decreased by enemy speed, all right? So Y 30 enemy speed, all right? And enemy speed is -2 or -1. Or is it? I think it's 1 actually. 1 or 2. It's 1. Of course, I already typed it in earlier. I forgot. All right. Yeah, so it's moving downwards. Okay. Let's run our stub against our examples. And we get a mismatch. It's just fine. The first one runs fine because we're just spitting the false back out. Anyways, going to comment it out. And grab the stub for... Not the stub. The template for a maybe enemy. All right. So, maybe enemy... template. All right. And we're going to use this as a scaffold for update-menemy. Okay. Like so. Rename this. Apparently I named the input variable enemy, but that's fine. We'll just leave that for now. All right. So now really pause the video and try to work on it on your own. I'm going to go for spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm assuming that you took a good swing at it, so now let's go over it together. All right, so looking at the examples here, if it's dead, it should stay dead. All right, so this is that case. If it's dead, it should stay dead, like so. All right, what about when it's alive, right? When it's a point? Well, we have to produce a maybe enemy at the end of the day, and this signature tells us we should also produce a point, like so. The X stays the same. The Y has to be increased by enemy speed, like so. So let's wrap this and add enemy speed. Enemy -speed, and it should pass all our tests, and so they do. All right, let's move on to the next problem, update-mbullet. So update-mbullet consumes a maybe bullet and produces a maybe bullet, and it moves the bullet's Y position if it is alive by bullet speed. If the bullet's Y position hits the top of the screen, make it dead. Right, make it dead, e.g. this false, right? Okay, so pause the video and try to work through this on your own. I'm going to go with spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm assuming that you took a good swing at it. So now let's go over it together. Okay, so signature, purpose, stub. Let's stub this out. So define update and bullet. Bullet consumes a maybe bullet. All right, so it's bull, and we'll just spit it back out for now to run against some examples. So let's elaborate this further. So update-mbullet. All right, what happens when it's dead, right? Well, we shouldn't move it, right? Because if it's dead, it should stay dead. So let's do another example here. Let's do the example where it's alive, where its make point, let's say at 4250, all right? Well, we want to move this, right, by the bullet speed according to the purpose statement. So it should produce a point, right? So make point 40 plus, so the x position stays the same, but the y position, 250, is going to be added to bullet dash speed, all right? Which is -1 bullet dash speed, because it's moving, it's -5 because it's moving upwards, right? Okay, like so. Okay, so let's do one more example for this third case. If the bullet's y position hits the top of the screen, make it dead, all right? So let's just do that case. So we're going to do, let's see, check expect, update-mbullet, make point. So we'll say 30. All right, so what does it mean to hit the top of the screen, right? Well, the top of the screen, right, the position here, right, it's 0, all right? So if it's the y position of this bullet hits 0, then that means it hits the top of the screen, all right? So we can make this, well, it should be negative, right? So it's like -1. If it's 0, then it's not, it's still gonna decrease, but it's not yet, you know, completely off the screen yet. So we're gonna do -1, all right? So if the, and this is what it looks like, right? If its position is -1, like so, all right? Then that means it kind of went off screen, all right? So what do you expect it to produce? Well, we want to make it dead, and maybe bullet is a false y position, and that false means that it's dead. Okay, so run against your stub. 2 failing tests here, that's fine. No other syntactical errors. Comment out the stub. Find the template for maybe bullet -temp. Copy and paste it down as scaffold for update-mbullet. Okay, and like so, rename it. All right, so hopefully this should be all the mental scaffolding needed to solve update-mbullet. Pause the video and try to do it on your own. I'm going to go with spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm going to assume that you took a good swing at it. So now let's go over it together. All right, let's just do the easy case first, right? If it's dead, right, this case, it should stay dead, like so. All right, so false. If it's alive, right, if it's a point, right, well, there are 2 cases, right? One where it's like moving regularly, it's still moving up, and one where it's like it moved off the screen, all right? So we're going to need an if. We need another conditional here, actually, when it's a point. So let's just focus on this case first, where it's moving, you know, normally, and it's not off the screen yet, all right? We have to do a make point, all right, where the y, the x stays the same, right? And then the y is increased by bullet speed, all right? Plus, and then bullet speed. Bullet dash speed, like so. All right. So we're this failing test is when it's, you know, moved off screen, right? If it moves off the screen, we should make it dead, all right? Okay. So what we'll do is, what we need is we can insert an if statement here, right? So let's just do that. So if, all right, at the y position, so it's going to be the y position is less than 0, right, then we'll produce false. Otherwise, we'll produce this make point, all right? Like so. And we can run this, and it should pass the test. Like so. All right. We can refactor this by moving this into another con block. So do this here, right? And stick this here. Because after this Boolean, right, we know that it's alive, right? This checks if it's dead. After that, we know that it's alive. So we can do this trick where we have another con case, and this one checks the point y, and if it's below, less than 0, then it's going to stay dead. So we can delete that if, like so. And there we go. And like so. Gonna hit Control R. Still passes our test, just more clear code. We can also chain this and do an and, alright? Like so. That also produces the same thing. Wait. Or actually. Alright, and I encourage you to pause the video and, check why this works. Use the stepper. Alright. But, this case is kind of weird, so I'm just going to revert it back. Like so. Okay. Anywho, that is the update-mbullet done. Let's move on to the next one. Update game. Okay. Update game consumes a game and produces game. Produces a game with the updated tank, bullet, and enemy movements. So you should use update-mbullet, update tank, and update-m-enemy in this, alright? So, I'm just going to grab the template for you guys. Game-temp. Grab it down. And then we're going to go back to our update game. Going to paste this down. Alright. So, pause the video. Hopefully this should be all the mental scaffolding needed to solve this problem. Spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. Alright, I'm assuming that you took a good swing at it, so now let's go over it together. Alright, so this update game has to produce a game. So we have to give it this make game. And likewise, these, right, it should update the tank, bullet, and enemy. Alright, we don't really have to write tests for these. And it's because it's not really, that interesting. So, update tank. Alright. This is going to be update on bullet. And then the next one is update invader. Update enemy. My bad. And we give it the game's invader, which is an enemy. For update on bullet, we pass it the shot, which is the bullet, and game-player of GM gets us the tank, and the score stays the same. Okay, so let's run this code. I forgot to rename the template. Okay, so now let's comment out what we did earlier, because it was like telling us that, hey, this function wasn't defined, we haven't got there yet. And let's run it. Alright, with main not yet shot game. Alright, so we should see them moving, like so. There's no bullet in the not yet shot game, right? Because the not yet shot game, right, has the bullet is dead, alright? So let's call main with, missed shot game, actually. That's where all three of them are alive. The bullet, the tank, and the invader. So like so, the bullet is moving up, that one's moving down, and my boat is not moving because we have the velocity is not negative. It's 0 right now, that's why. So we can give it that. We can play around with this. So main of make game, where the first field is a tank. So we'll say we're at half width and we're moving at -1. So we're moving left, all right? Next is the bullet. So make point, we'll say half width. And then it's all the way at the height of the screen. And then lastly, the invader. So we'll make enemy, make invader. Oh, actually it's a point. And it's going to be half width also. And then the Y position is also going to be at 0. And of course the score. All right, so we should see all three pieces moving. Tank is moving, invader is moving, and the bullet is moving. And it doesn't collide yet. And that's what we're going to do in the next video. Anyways, test, review, and refactor this code, submit it into Handin, and make sure that you pass the server-side test. That is about it for this one, and I will catch you in the next one.